Greetings at Cheating Story Lab. At 2:47 a.m., a message from my lawyer arrived. Avoid confronting her. A larger issue has arisen. We're dealing with Judge Thornton's son. I was in my kitchen holding my wife's phone, which she thought she'd concealed in her gym bag. The screen displayed messages that made my hands tremble. However, it wasn't the affair that caused my lawyer to breach protocol and text me in the dead of night. It was the identity of her paramour that mattered. And most significantly, the court where our divorce proceedings would be held due to this revelation. I am Gabriel Reeves, a 41-year-old corporate insurance analyst. I have been married for 15 years to a woman named Colette, who at one point made me believe in second chances. Her previous marriage ended adversely, she claimed, due to an abusive and controlling ex-husband. For 14 years and 11 months, I believed her narrative. The marriage started deteriorating 6 months prior to that late-night text. Colette began attending a gym. Instead, she started building connections with legal experts for her real estate profession. Upon returning home later, she smiled more at her phone than at me. "I'm not foolish. I see the pattern emerging," she said, "but I'm not hasty, I'm analytical. Before making decisions, I gather facts, so I started with finances. Our shared account displayed consistent cash withdrawals of $300 each Friday for 8 weeks. This was her explanation. "Client gifts, business meals," she claimed. However, her expense reports showed that those meals had already been reimbursed. The money seemed to be going elsewhere, so I scrutinized our car's GPS history. She had frequently visited the Meridian luxury apartments in the Harbor District, not for clients or open houses, but specifically on Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoons, and always for 2-3 hours. I could have confronted her then. 90% of betrayed spouses do. But having worked on insurance fraud cases long enough, I knew that premature confrontation allows people to destroy evidence. Instead, I undertook an action that felt questionable but essential. I installed surveillance software on the shared iPad, which she was using more frequently, and discovered her messages there. The sender was Brendan Thornton, a 29-year-old assistant prosecutor, son of Judge Leonard Thornton, the senior family court judge in our county, the same judge who had a 40% statistical chance of presiding over our divorce. The messages weren't merely explicit. They were tactical. "Brendan, May 3rd. Your husband's attorney filed in your district. Lucky us," Colette wrote on the same day. "Dad knows how to read a room," Brendan responded, hinting at a potential advantage due to my husband's insurance salary versus my real estate potential. "You'll be fine," he said. "Colette, I love you," followed by "God, I love you, Brendan." "Love you too," she replied. "Case closed before it even opens." I read the messages 11 times before my hands stopped trembling enough to capture a screenshot, at which point I contacted my attorney Martin Hoffner. 3 weeks after hiring him when I suspected infidelity, he instructed me to gather evidence and wait for his signal. His 2 a.m. response was the signal, and we met at his office at 6 a.m. The man, Martin, aged 63 with a bulldog-like build in a suit, had managed my parents' estate and brother's custody battle. Known for not taking cases he couldn't win, he scrutinized 8 weeks of evidence. GPS logs, financial records, screenshots of 247 messages between Colette and Brendan, photos of her outfits inappropriate for client meetings, and calculated for comfort. After reading these for 20 minutes, Martin set down the papers, looked at me with an uncommon expression of excitement, and asked, "Gabriel, how vindictive are you feeling? Are you seeking a straightforward divorce or the destruction of the entire house they're building?" Recalling Colette's smile as she ended the conversation with "case closed," it felt like a victory for her, implying my defeat, my inability or unwillingness to retaliate. Martin agreed. "Let's burn it down," he said. "We won't file for divorce yet, but instead we'll hunt." He outlined his strategy. The mere mention of Judge Thornton in the messages hinted at potential judicial misconduct. However, we needed more than vague suggestions. We required solid evidence of corruption, or at least a clear indication of collusion substantial enough to force Thornton's removal and investigation. Martin suggested someone with an equal standing to file the complaint. Someone whose credibility he couldn't discredit, someone who had proof of his moral decay. "Who?" Martin grinned. "His wife." I was stunned. "Why would Judge Thornton's wife aid me?" "Betrayed spouses often rally together," Martin explained. "Given that I am aware Vivienne Thornton has been partaking in a support group for women with unfaithful husbands these past 3 months, my thoughts sped up. Is the judge among them too? No, it's not a thought. It's a certainty, Gabriel, as the legal fraternity is compact. Whispers spread quickly. Judge Thornton has been involved with a court reporter for over a year now. Vivienne uncovered this affair and has gathered evidence for her own divorce but hasn't submitted any paperwork yet. Why not? Financial and timing concerns are likely the culprits, just like in anyone else's bad marriage. However, if we proceed cautiously and demonstrate to her that her silence is allowing her son to follow the same path, we might persuade her into action. This strategy felt manipulative. It felt like exploiting someone else's suffering for my benefit. Yet, it also seemed necessary. Martin established contact via the support group facilitator, a therapist who, with Vivienne's consent, coordinated a private meeting. We convened at a cafe 40 miles away from our town, where no one would recognize us. 56-year-old Vivienne Thornton, poised with silver hair and a stature shaped by years, examined me silently for a considerable time before speaking up. She mentioned that Martin suggested you had proof concerning her son. Her voice was firm but strained. She pushed the file towards me, which I watched her read for about 10 minutes. Initially keeping her emotions in check, her hands eventually started to quiver. "For how long?" she finally inquired. "I can confirm 8 months," I replied, "perhaps longer." Upon hearing this, she closed the file. "Your spouse is indeed shrewd and tactical," I added. Vivienne's jaw clenched. "My son was taught by a master," I explained cautiously. "His father has been instilling in him since he turned 18 that women are dispensable and ethical considerations are optional." I watched as this person developed. I thought perhaps he might make different choices. "I apologize," I offered, to which she responded by taking a folder from her purse. "For 9 months, I have compiled evidence against my husband's affair, text messages, joint account transactions, and gifts, waiting for the opportune moment." She presented me with a folder and explained that the Judicial Ethics Commission was hosting their annual fundraiser in 6 weeks, which is the year's most significant legal event attended by all judges, prosecutors, and lawyers in the region. This year, my husband is the keynote speaker, marking his 30th anniversary on the bench. I realized her intention. She wanted to expose him at this event. Vivienne corrected me, stating that we should unveil their wrongdoings together. "They think they are invulnerable due to my husband's position. Let's demonstrate the consequences of misusing protection." Over the next 6 weeks, we assembled a watertight case. Martin filed a complaint with the Judicial Ethics Commission, detailing Judge Thornton's potential conflict of interest due to his son's relationship with my wife. We provided evidence of Brendan asserting his father would side with Colette in court due to confidence. Meanwhile, Vivienne submitted a complaint detailing her husband's infidelity and alleged use of judicial influence for favorable treatment of his mistress's traffic fines and small claims cases. Although seemingly insignificant, this was still corruption. The Ethics Commission launched an initial investigation. As usual, information about these matters remained confidential prior to official charges being filed. Therefore, Judge Thornton, Colette, and Brendan were all unaware of the impending situation. I kept up a facade of normalcy at home. Despite being served a work-prepared dinner, sharing a bed with my wife who was involved in an affair, continuing to support her plans, believing she remained oblivious to me, the most challenging aspect wasn't the anger. It was the acting, pretending not to know, pretending I still trusted her. But every time I wanted to reveal the truth, I recalled those messages. The case had concluded as if I'd been defeated beforehand, as though my resolve was too feeble to contest. The charity event took place at the Grand Meridian Hotel, ironically, the same venue where Colette had been liaising with Brendan. A formal affair attended by 500 individuals. Judge Thornton was scheduled to address the crowd at 8 p.m. Vivienne and I arrived together at 7:45 p.m. sharp. The response was swift. Heads swiveled, murmurs swept through the throng. Vivienne Thornton hadn't graced a public legal gathering in 2 years. Her presence there was a clear statement. Her arrival with a man who wasn't her husband ignited immediate conjecture. Then they recognized me. Some lawyers had caught wind of the Ethics Commission accusations through unofficial sources. My presence with the judge's wife only fueled their suspicions. Judge Thornton spotted us from across the ballroom. His complexion turned ashen. He began to advance towards us, but Colette intercepted him first, having been engaged in networking near the bar. Her countenance shifted from bewilderment, understanding, and then sheer dread. Brendan materialized next to her, seeming youthful and fearful all of a sudden. Vivienne gripped my arm tightly as she murmured, "Compose yourself." Approaching us was Judge Thornton, seemingly aged beyond his 61 years, drained, trapped in a corner. "Vivienne," he said cautiously, "what is this?" "This," she replied, "is your judgment day." She passed him an envelope. He unfolded it shakily, revealing the official Ethics Commission notice of investigation as well as copies of both complaints, hers and mine. "You utilized your position to protect our son amidst his adulterous acts," Vivienne stated audibly enough for nearby chatter to cease. Colette barged through the thronging crowd. "Gabriel, what do you not?" I murmured quietly. "I am aware of everything, including the matter, the communications, and the scheme to manipulate the judge during our divorce proceedings." A speechless expression crossed her face, but words failed her. Brendan attempted a different tactic. "This is harassment. It's not an ambush at a professional gathering," Martin interjected, appearing beside me. "We're merely documenting events for the Ethics Commission, which has been probing for 3 weeks. Tonight's appearance serves only to confirm that Mrs. Thornton and Mr. Reeves are fully cooperating with this investigation." Judge Thornton's complexion paled from white to gray. "Vivienne, let us discuss this privately." "We had 3 decades to keep things private," Vivienne retorted. "You opted for secrecy only when it shielded you, never when it could safeguard our marriage or our son's reputation." The audience swelled, with some recording on their phones and someone from the local legal periodical jotting down notes. This was the crescendo, the culmination of everything that had transpired. Colette attempted it once more. "Gabriel, you're disgracing yourself. Everyone is observing." I responded. "I am fine with that. Let them observe. Let them see the outcome when individuals believe power renders them invulnerable." Judge Thornton was set to address the crowd in 8 minutes. He glanced at the podium, then at the assembled spectators, then at his wife. "I need to deliver a statement," he whispered. "Then say it from the podium," Vivienne suggested. "Share with everyone what you told our son. Inform them that ethics are subjective and marriage vows mere suggestions. Proceed." He remained stationary. The event organizer approached hesitantly. "Judge Thornton, we're prepared for your speech." Leonard Thornton looked at the podium one last time. Then he placed the envelope aside, turned, and walked towards the exit, neither retreating nor remaining put. Brendan trailed him. Subsequently, Colette, after a final desperate glance at me, and the crowd buzzed with chatter. Vivienne faced me. "How do you feel?" I replied, as if I just witnessed something crumble. "Good," she stated. "This is the collapse of their arrogance. Now we construct something superior." The sequence of events transpired over a 6-month period. Judge Thornton stepped down from his position, waiting for the Ethics Commission investigation. The comprehensive report concluded insufficient evidence for criminal indictments but upheld charges of inappropriate conduct and misuse of power. His pension remained intact, yet his reputation perished. Brendan Thornton departed from the prosecutor's office. I was informed later that he relocated to another state and began working in insurance defense. Ironically, Colette filed for divorce 2 weeks following the fundraiser. Her lawyer aimed to portray her as a victim, swayed by a powerful man's son and coerced into an affair. Martin debunked this narrative during a single deposition, employing her own messages demonstrating a calculated strategy and scornful disregard for me. The settlement was equitable but not lavish. She retained her real estate business. I retained the house, my retirement accounts, and most importantly, my honor. Vivienne Thornton and I remained friends during the ordeal. For months following the fundraiser, she finalized her divorce. We occasionally shared coffee, 2 individuals who had weathered similar struggles sharing insights. During our last meeting, she posed a question I'd been contemplating myself. Did you regret the public disclosure and how we handled it? Pondering over that late-night text, the case's closure, the presumption that I would succumb due to weakness, stupidity, or powerlessness, my response was firm. "No," I replied. "They sought to wield power as a weapon. We countered with truth just as effectively. That isn't revenge, it's restoring balance." Vivienne smiled. "Last week, Leonard phoned expressing remorse. I told him that apologies are mere words, actions hold the weight. He said nothing, merely hung up." She sipped her coffee. "Some people fail to grasp that silence isn't strength. It's the echo of accountability approaching. Since our conversation, I've often reflected upon it. Are often questioned about being bitter, if I'll ever trust again, if betrayal fundamentally altered me. The answer isn't simple indeed. I've changed, grown more cautious, understanding that the person by my side might as well be a stranger, yet I'm not shattered. Instead, I've learned. I've discovered patience can be a weapon. Records are preferable to confrontation. At times, the ethical route necessitates strategy over emotion. My education came from betrayal, not just infidelity. It's about scorn. Colette didn't merely sleep with Brendan. She mocked me in those messages. She reveled in my anticipated downfall before the battle even commenced. That was the true betrayal. The belief I wouldn't retaliate wasn't revenge, but correction. A public declaration that power without morals is simply bullying. Bullies disintegrate more swiftly than anticipated when faced correctly. 6 months post-divorce, while tidying the garage, I stumbled upon an antiquated photo album filled with snapshots from our wedding, our honeymoon in Barcelona, initial anniversary celebrations where we still appeared content, and I scrutinized Colette's countenance in those images, seeking the point of transformation, when affection morphed into strategy but couldn't pinpoint it. Perhaps it was always present, or maybe my faith was overly optimistic. I retained a solitary image, not out of animosity or sentimentality, but as a cautionary symbol to be vigilant with trust, maintain diligent records, and never underestimate one's ability to resist. The highlight of Judge Thornton's keynote speech at the fundraiser was supposedly integrity within the legal profession. The irony didn't escape me. Instead, his absence became the most striking moment of that event. The vacant podium, the silent congregation. 8 months post-divorce, Colette sought to connect on social media, and I neither accepted nor rejected, leaving it unattended. A subtle implication that certain shut doors remain closed forever. Recently, an ethics commission letter arrived, referencing our case in their latest educational materials on judicial behavior. Martin showcased the correspondence in his office, admiring it as a demonstration of how conflicts of interest can tarnish the facade of neutrality. He expressed pride, suggesting I should be, as not only did I triumph in my case, but also influenced policy change. However, I fight neither for policy nor precedent. Instead, my struggle was for something less complex, the denial of disrespect from a vow-bound lover. This narrative is more about that denial than it is about revenge or justice. In Colette's mind, she believed she had found a crucial advantage, a judge's son who could maneuver the system. Judge Thornton felt his authority made him immune from repercussions. Brendan thought his father's power would provide eternal protection. However, they all erred. Power only seems intimidating until someone is prepared to risk losing everything to unveil it. I wasn't on the verge of losing everything, but I was willing to do so. That willingness proved decisive. This is my narrative, not one of vengeance, but of resistance, resisting contempt, resisting silence, resisting accepting case closed as the end. Sometimes cases remain unresolved until all evidence is presented, and at times the most damning evidence is merely the truth, offered at the perfect moment to the right audience. Case resolved, not exactly, but corrected.